Dave is going to teach us how to create a session on our free PC app. They're Windows-based, David Live, and then we can use that session on the David Premiere using the micro SD card to install it onto the device.
Yeah, I'll give you guys a little quick preamble to the Premiere, because this is our new Premiere device. And there it is. What's unique about it is that all the sessions, including all the audio, is on a tiny little SD card. So this allows you to have a little SD card for every single patient with their protocols on it and audio tracks, sessions, the works. You can even have all their patient history and on it. You have their EEG files on the card if you want. But you could put everything on the card if you like. And so this allows us to be hugely flexible in terms of what we can do. So yes, so some things about the Premiere that are quite amazing is that we've got a couple of apps on Windows. One's called the Live. You use it live. So you use your studio, the designing your software package, and you can then tweak your protocols and then install it into the device, and they can take it home. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So I'll be showing you that. I've got my Spectrum iSet plugged into a port on the computer. I plug in, it recognizes it. Now, if I click on it, like so, and start live session, this. There we go. You guys can all see that. You can see there's nothing going on. Now, this is where I'm going to have to bounce back and forth a little bit so you can see what's going on. So here you go then. So you can see these iPads and there's nothing happening. And you can still, so I'm going to grab this frequency bar down here, and I'm going to pull it up to 10 as a starting point. See? So you guys can now see it flashing in a sort of a weird way. You'll see the little window that's open, and I've got it set to 10. Now, down below at the bottom here, it shows that I've been now running live for a minute. So it records the session length. I've been running it for a minute 38. Now, here's the record button here. This is how we record the session. So you've got your client set up. They're in the chair. Maybe you start them at 10. And then you decide that's a good time to record. So you hit the record button right here. Now you see it's flashing away. Now it's recording this session. And those we started at 10. And away we go. We got some pulse beats going on. Maybe we want to turn on the heartbeat. Now here's our pitch. Maybe we want to have a little different pitch. Maybe we like that pitch better. You're talking to your client. They don't like that original pitch, so they kind of like this pitch better. So you give that a shot. We're in sync mode right now, so we can split this into dual. And now we've got choices for both left and right frequencies. So let's say you say to your client, I really think you're going to respond well to delta on the left and gamma on the right. There's no good reason for me to say this. You can, and because you don't want to just maybe hit it manually, so you can go into what's called manual mode instead of live mode. You can click on here, and then you can say, here's a transition. So we're going to make a 30-second transition. Okay, here we go, right here. 30-second transition. And then we're going to set this left to, let's say, 3. We're going to set the right to 40. All right, let's do that. Well, 33 is good enough. Then you can say apply changes. Apply the changes, and strange things will start to happen. And you'll notice it starts to slow down on one side and starts to speed up the other. I should have set some colors on these glasses. So we will change it back, and we'll set some colors as well. You can see how that works. There you go. So one side's getting real slow, and the other side, the right side, is getting very fast. Okay. The transition is finished. It's right here. It's over with. Go back into live mode. Let's select the left color. Let's say we pick green. For the left, let's say for the right, pick a pink or magenta. There you go. Now I've got two colors here going on. So I've got two colors going on in my sets now. Well, you saw that, right? You saw the pink. The green is going very slow. The pink is going very fast. So now maybe I say, okay, I'm not sure if that's working for you or not, but we don't want to jar you. I mean, we could go up here manually, move you around, but let's say we want to make it nice and smooth. Let's say we say, you know, let's take you back to 10 again. And we're going to bring this to 10. So nothing's going to happen while we're in this manual mode, because this just allows us to set what we want to happen in the future. Maybe we don't want to be in dual anymore. Maybe we want to be in synchronized. You can use the buttons, your left, right mouse buttons or cursor buttons on your computer. I'll go back to 10. And then I can apply these changes, but maybe I also want to change the colors. Let's go to blue on the left, and we'll go to green on the right. Okay, we'll do that. Okay, so I'm going to put this up in the screen here. You can see what's going on. If I get it close enough. Holding that over, the arms over. There you go. Kind of blue and green, or I mean pink and green. So now I'm going to, okay, fine. I'm going to go apply transitions to these new colors. As you can see, here we go, apply changes over a 30-second time interval. And so this is going to slowly change. Okay, so we did that. We can also change this to, let's say we want to try some binaural beats. We'll put on some binaural beats, turn the heartbeat off. And so anyway, here we are. We've recorded for 5 minutes now. And let's say we kind of had enough recording. We could decide to stop it now. So we're going to stop recording. Supposing we are supposing, and we'll assume that our patient liked that. And we got a good session rolling, so we're going to save this session now. And I'm going to call it, what? The demo, January 7th. Okay. Description, yeah, okay. There you go. Or we could say patient with ADD. There you go. Now, there's categories you could save this in, and there's all kinds of them. And they will show up automatically on your device in that category. Depends on whatever one you pick, and they will show up there. But in this case, I'm just going to go to custom, just because I don't want it in all my other categories. So, and I'll go save. Okay, so there we go. Now you'll notice where it is, the documents, David live sessions, and recordings. There we go. I'll save it. Done. Okay, now I can also stop doing this, tell it to close. Yeah, there's soft off thing going on, but we're going to skip the soft off. And I'm just going to make it stop. Okay.
Here's a question. Does this record and save option work with the regular Spectrum glasses or only with the Premier system?
Well, right now we're doing this on the Spectrum glasses, but we're going to pull it in because Spectrum glasses are a part of the Premier system. So now we're going to pull it in to the Premier, and we're going to first pull it into the studio, and then we're going to pull it into the Premier. This is another session that I had on here. Okay, everybody can see this now. So we're going to open. We'll save those changes. We're going to open the one we just made. And so I'm going to go to Documents here. And then I'm going to go to David Live Sessions, Recordings. And here we go, January 7th. I'll pull that in. So this is the session we made. So we started off here. We had white lights. You can, oh, I should show you this. So this is the time. This is the frequency. We were in synchronized mode. So everything was at 10 hertz for a little while. Then I split them off into dual mode. And then we played with some stuff. And then I made one go down to 3.1 on the left side. I made 33.2 on the right side. But I did a transition, a 30-second transition. And that's why you see there's 30 seconds here. And this is the transition here. The right side going up, the left side going down. Then at some point, I turned off the pulses down here. I put them on binaural beats. I also put some colors on. And when I did the second transition over here, which we can click on, that was at 4:33. This is when we decided to change colors. Actually, down here, by the time I got down here, it was different colors. So this is our session now. And we can go up here and we can edit this session. Let's say we wanted something different. Let's say we said, well, I kind of wish maybe I had gone to SMR first before I went down to these other ones. So you can click on this module here and you can say, well, let's just make that then SMR 14. We'll make the right one SMR 14. There we go. And now it'll automatically ramp when we do this. So yeah, you can make these edits and so on. You can see right here, we're at SMR now. We went from alpha to SMR, then we split off from there. And so we made those changes. You can also decide what session type you want to save it as. There's so many features you can do in this. You can copy and paste modules. You can say, well, I really like the sequence, and my client really like the sequence starting at about, let's say starting when we split off, right about here. And they would like to repeat that because they like that so much. So you could say, well, let's copy this whole bunch here, shift, and we could copy all of this. And then we could decide to paste it all down here, the whole thing, and duplicate it. Or you could decide just to paste one aspect of it. Like for instance, I can go back here to copy, and I could go to paste, edit, copy. But I can also go to, let's say you wanted to change just one value. Let's say, okay, no, we didn't like that left value going all over the place. We kind of want that left value maybe to stay at 10 throughout the entire session instead. And starting right at the very beginning. So you could say, okay, we're at 10 here. So we'll just say, let's do this. Let's copy this, edit, copy. And then you could go highlight everything here, shift, and then you could go edit, paste values. And with paste values, you can paste any one function rather than the entire thing. Let's go with left frequency. So we're going to paste the AVE left frequency. Bingo. Now it's at 10 all the way across, but the right side is going up and down, doing its thing. So you've got a huge amount of flexibility with the software. It's amazing what you can do. You can even create your own ramps automatically. You could say, okay, now I've got this at 10, but I kind of wished I had done that differently. I wished maybe when this started cycling up here to 32, that 10 actually cycled up to 20. So you could say, okay, let's copy this here. You could say down here, we want it to be 20 by the time we end, or it could be right here if you want. We could go shift. And then we could go tools, ramp. And we could ramp left frequency. Bingo. Oh, I forgot to give it 20 hertz up here. Now let me tweak that. So let's go to frequency here. Let's go to 20. So just ramp it from 10 to 10. There's 20. So let's go back here to 10. Okay, I'll just go right now. Somewhere's here. Well, I got 10 across the board now, don't I? So I'll just go, okay, let's just go here. 1 minute, 10. Down here, we want it to be 20. So 20 right here. I'll go shift. And I'll say tools, ramp. And I'll say left frequency. And look what it did. Just wrapped that whole left frequency across from 10 to 20. And while the right side's doing this other thing. So yeah, we can do a lot of stuff. That's why we can make sessions now with hundreds and hundreds of modules in them to do all kinds of different things. Like our session with pain, every 3 seconds we're bouncing around between half hertz and 100 hertz on the CES. And we're doing that all the time. By the way, I can also go here. I can also go edit, tools, change session type. Supposing now CES is normally included, so when we have this session here, there'll still be CES actually running. But if we add CES, if we add AVE and CES, then you can pick CES or 50% duty cycle. 50% duty cycle is a much stronger form of CES. But I'm going to go add CES here. Now notice it's stuck in the CES stuff. It is the same frequency as the AVE, but now you can go into CES and you can edit that. Supposing you said, you know, at this point here, I really want CES to be 100 hertz, because I know 100 hertz is helpful. So you could say here, you could go now the CES shows up down here. And you could say, well, that's first of all, let's make this synchronized. And let's go to 100 hertz. 100 hertz, but we maybe don't want to do it real suddenly because that might be a little hard on people. So we're going to go up to 100 hertz. Well, no, we're going to go to 100 hertz. So I can say, I've got that set at 100. I can say go up here now. And I'm going to shift. And I'm going to say let's ramp this from 10 hertz at this point. At 25 seconds, we're going to slowly ramp up to 100. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to go ramp. I'm going to ramp CES left frequency. And it's synchronized so the left controls the right. So now you can see how it even though we have all these modules, it calculated where it should be. So now the CES slowly ramped up to 100. And now we've got it coming back down again unless we change all the rest of the modules. It's going back down. But anyway, you can see the flexibility we have with this. I can go File, Save As. Here we go. It's custom. I've got it in recordings, but I'm not going to leave it in recordings. I'm going to, I could, but this is now technically going to be a studio file. So I'm going to go where my studio files are, and that's over here. Oh, what the heck? I should just put it on my computer instead of uploading it to the cloud. And I'll just drop it. Yeah, where's a good place to drop it? David session, David lives. Yeah, sessions, David session libraries. Here we go. And I could drop it here into Premiere sessions, and then I can say demos, demo sessions folder, demo sessions. Okay, to that. Now we're going to save that right into demo sessions. By the way, what you have up here in this box is what's going to be displayed on the actual display when you turn on the Premiere. So I've just got my Premiere here in my hand, and you can see these titles. You have 19 characters to come up with a title. And you can see here I've got Booster 2 on there at the moment. I don't know how well that comes out, but it's there. And this one's going to be called Demo January 7th, but you could easily put your client name or your client code there and a little something about it, and then you kind of can keep track of things better. And I'll say, okay. I can also, there we go, I can also do some other things while I'm here. Category, yeah, custom, that's good. Okay, so that's good. Yes, we're in the custom category and we're fine. Okay, so we're good. So now we can take this session and we can download it into the device. And the way we're going to do that, and it's very, very simple. So I'm going to turn off my device here, my Premiere. I'm going to pop out the SD card. So here it is in my hand. I've got the a little converter, from micro SD to standard SD. I'm going to plug it in. Now, sometimes if you don't have that little SD card inserted in the back of your computer, you'll have to buy a little micro SD programmer. It's just a little thumb drive and plug it into a port, a USB port. So I'm going to plug this into a port. Plug it in the back. Okay. I'm going to go to File Manager. I'm going to go to Documents, right? David Session Libraries. Here we go. Then I'm going to go to Premier Sessions. Then I'm going to Demo Sessions. Here it is. Click on that. Okay, and then going down here. Now you see, of course, that SD card is plugged into the computer, so it's there. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to drag it over to Sessions, not to audio, but to Sessions. Audio has a whole bunch of background sounds you can play with Sessions, and we have a whole bunch of stuff. We have babbling brook, birds, brown noise, ocean waves, pink noise, thunderstorm, white noise, wind chime. Grab this. Oh, before we do this, well, I'll save it to the folder, but I do want to show you something that is really, really cool with this session editor. Here we go. So I'm going to just close that right now. Now, here's something that you should know. I can hit the play button. I can scroll through. And again, you'll see that the lights are going to do exactly what was going on at that period in time. And this is exactly what's going to be happening at 250, 251 on your Premiere. Same tones, same lights, same everything. And you can say, well, what are we doing at 6 minutes in, or 4 minutes in this case? And you can scroll through your session and see exactly what's going on. Right now I'm at 11:27 because I copied everything. What's soft offing at this point? That's why there's a minus sign there. Let's take her back a bit. Or that's how much is left, sorry. Take it back. I'm at 8:38. I click down here. 8:38 will just be ahead of this little gray bar, and so you know what's going to be coming up when it happens. So you can scroll through your session all the way through, and it's really nice that way. Now you may say at the end here, let's just pause this. Maybe I'd like his session to be 15 minutes longer. I think he'll actually do better if we just hold him for a little while. And you can say, okay, 5:30, let's hold him here, 14 and 10. And we will make it so we can make it longer. So here's the timestamp here at 5:30. Got that? And we're going to make this now longer. Now you just made this, well, we made that a lot longer. Say just make it a little bit longer. I say stretch that out to 10 minutes. Now we just made a session that's going to be like 15 minutes long, 18 minutes long in this case. So you can add modules, change the timing of your modules, tweak them any way you like. So that is one of the nice little bonuses of being able to edit your session after, because in real life, in the practice, things don't necessarily always go the way you think they're going to go. So that's the scoop there. There we go. I ejected the SD card. I'll take it out. Got it here. I'll plug it into the device, and then we will see it on the Premiere. Yeah, and if Marianne, if you still have a few questions, that would be great. I'll come right back.
Just gonna ask Becky Basham about the bottom one. So your question is, are those your Spectrum or Premiere glasses plugged in? Yeah, he's using the Spectrum glasses, which are the David Premiere glasses. Do you want to turn your mic on, Becky?
You have two cords.
Oh, there's
You
another
have two cords in that
cord.
set. So if you look for the other set of cords, you'll find that any of the glasses that come with a Premiere are going to be your Spectrum glasses.
John and Becky are our scientific advisors. And if you guys know John and Becky, you'll say, you know that they've been in the field for a long, long time.
So the iSet cord should have a little icon of an iSet on the end in the older TrueView. So
Yeah.
the Delight series iSets are different than the Spectrum iSet. The Spectrum iSet can be used with the David Premiere, the David Breathe app, David Live app.
So Becky, yes, so the Spectrum is used, of course, with your Premiere, but it's also used directly off your computer with the computer port. You can use it both ways. And that's how come you can plug your Spectrum iSets into the computer. You can design a session on it, and then you can plug it into your Premiere, then plug your Spectrum iSets into your Premiere, and away you go. Standard USB cord for the computer. So you plug your glasses into a standard USB with a micro USB end for the computer, and that's the same cord you would use to charge or put data, download data, or do firmware upgrades for your device. It's just a standard USB cord.
I'm holding it here.
Yeah, there we go. There's John, and here's mine too.
Oh.
See, I just have a
Oh,
standard
I
cord.
get it.
Yeah, I was just going to maybe just do one last thing here. Let's turn on the Premiere. And this session will be on the Premiere now. And I'm just going to load it up. It'll be an AVE session, recently used session library. We got 57 sessions. I put this under custom. So when I go to my custom category on the device, right here, there's 5 sessions in there. I'll click on that. Demo, there it is, demo, January 7th. I'll click on that, and this wild and crazy session is going to start to run. So I'll just hit the check mark. Hit the check mark, it's going to turn. Connect headphones. I don't have my headphones connected, so it wants me to connect them, but I'll just say, never mind, skip. And now it's turning on, and that is today's session in there, just turning itself on. I can plug the iSets in, then you'll get a little better idea. You won't be able to hear the sounds unless I plug them into some speakers, but trust me, it's exactly what you heard on the computer. I mean, exactly what you heard on the computer. And there we are. Now, something I could have done, if you guys wanted, let's say your client really, really likes ocean waves. I like ocean waves. So when we turn this on, I'm just going to go back to the session here. Loading, here we go, recently used, yes. So here's our demo. Now you'll notice where the start is. It says, in this lower corner here, it says start. But this other funky symbol means if you press and hold it, it's checked. There's a little check mark there. It means it's checked. So you can check stuff. I'm going to press and hold it. It's going to take me into another menu. In this case, it's audio file. I'm going to go, and it says there's no audio file. I'm going to click the check mark on audio file. Now I've got none, but now I can scroll through all these different sound effects. I'm going to go to ocean waves. There it is. I'm going to click yes. Let's go to ocean waves. Okay. Now I'm going to get out of this menu by clicking the power button quickly. Don't hold it down. And that'll just take you back to ready to run the session. You click the check mark. The whole thing runs, and there's ocean waves in the background, and the ocean waves are a nice recording. And there's babbling brooks, and there's birds, and there's chimes, and there's a bunch of things back there. So that's the scoop. Okay, now, and here are my lights flashing. Of course, they're white, but in a few minutes, they're going to switch colors to green and pink. Exactly what we saw on the computer. What we saw in that script on the computer. It'll be exactly the same, and the CES will be the same. And remember, the CES, I brought it up to 100 hertz at about 2 or 3 minutes in. So if I put the ear clips on, I'll start to feel that thing take off pretty quickly here. Now, when the session is running, if you ever hit the check mark, you can see 2 things. You can do a bunch of different things. So here we go. We're a minute in, and there's like 11 minutes left. 11 minutes left. I can also look at the, you can look at this, say the left and right for both the AVE and for the CES. You can see that. You can also look at this. Pulse tone, 240 hertz, heartbeat 24. So you can see all your parameters on the device. These are the colors. And now because the lights are white, so this is hex code. And those of you know who how to do colors in hex code for red, green, and blue, white is FFFFFF, all the same. And that's hex code, and that means it's white. If it was just FFF, if it was just FF and then 0000, that would be red. It's red, green, and blue. If it was 00 FF 00, that would be green. And if it was 0000 FF, or any kind of value, actually, they would be blue. So it shows you your actual hex codes, and there's all kinds of software on the computer where you can put those hex codes in and you can see the exact color displayed on the computer. I know we've got a link to one of those sites that does that. But anyway, that's the scoop. And it's running. So I guess I'll stop now, and we'll field some questions.
Do you have a guide for pitch and heartbeat settings? And then what is best for what condition? Like, do you have a guide that helps people figure out which
Well,
settings?
for heart rate, we normally, normally I take it down to 24 and I use it as part of heart rate variability. And if you inhale for 2 beats and exhale for 2 beats, that's a 4-beat breath cycle. Now it'll be 5 seconds in and 5 seconds out. Okay. Now, in terms of pitch, no, we haven't found anything on pitch. We've got we did a study many years ago, and we ran all kinds of different pitches and played them to people and said, which pitch do you like best? And most people preferred right around 170 hertz. So that's the default pitch, because that's the pitch that is most, I don't know if I'd say most enjoyable, but least annoying. And so that's the pitch we use, bop, 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 bop. But you can use whatever pitch you want. You can just change it on the editor, no trouble at all, or in your device for that matter. Okay, any else? And what frequencies to avoid? In terms of frequencies to avoid, no, there are no frequencies to avoid. The nice thing is that all frequencies do increase cerebral blood flow. They all increase lactate and ATP to some degree. I wouldn't say there's any frequencies to avoid, but you need to know when to use what. But overall, because it increases lactate and ATP, it increases cerebral blood flow, and it increases neurotransmitters like serotonin and so on. And there's not really a particular frequency that you need to use. For instance, if you follow the frequency model, which is what's used in neurofeedback, it doesn't apply to neuromodulation. And here's an example. Neuromodulation or neurostimulation increases cerebral blood flow across a broad band of frequencies. And I was having discussions with Herschel Tumim, and we had some very good discussions because he was doing a hemoencephalograph where he was using cerebral blood flow to train kids to up their frontal blood flow to help treat ADHD. And we knew that entrainment drove up cerebral blood flow because we put them on the hemoencephalograph and it drove it up quite a bit. And there's research to back it, which is why we knew. Anyway, so I had just by dumb luck, a lady, a college student came in a week or two later, and she was dropping out of school. She was struggling so bad. She was 3 standard deviations high at 8 hertz. Well, you just can't go to school if that's where you are. And she could read 2 paragraphs and then fog out. And so that's why she was struggling so much. So I thought, well, I could give her like an SMR beta, which is kind of what you would do if you were doing the frequency model. But with the blood flow model, it turns out that entrainment does drive up cerebral blood flow across the board, but it has a maximal driving effect at about 8 hertz. So I thought, well, I'm going to give her entrainment at 8 hertz, exactly what she should not have on a frequency model, but perfect for a cerebral blood flow model. And we do know that cerebral blood flow affects the frequency of your alpha waves. So I gave her 8 hertz and for 20 some minutes, and then we did a brain map after. And instead of being 3 standard deviations high, now she was only half. And she read 10 pages before she started to fog. And that was all in a 30-minute span. So you don't necessarily have to follow any particular protocols. We generally follow the protocols that have been sort of laid out with neurofeedback and that kind of a thing. But we don't have to. We don't have to follow those protocols. We just do in general. Now, the one protocol that is interesting, and that's the thalamocortical disconnect, where these people cannot make alpha waves. They're post-inflammatory conditions, so they're post-concussion, they're post maybe viral infection, and they're fairly flatline. They're very low voltage, very flat EEG. And they need alpha in the worst way because they have severe anxiety because they don't have the alpha. But we have found that alpha doesn't work very well. Turns out we have to stimulate them hard, and with typically randomized SMR beta, and in 15 to 20 minutes, we'll see huge amount of alpha start to emerge, even though we never gave them alpha. As the thalamus gets back into the loops and the generator kicks in, you'll see all this alpha showing up. Often it's a little bit fast at the onset, but then it does normalize to 10 hertz after a week or so. Sometimes it starts off at about 12 or 13 hertz, but then it normalizes after. Anyway, so those are some examples. You wouldn't want to use beta when you're going to bed, generally speaking. A lot of ADHD kids do very well with beta before they go to bed, but most of the time it will wake you up. You shouldn't be using theta in the morning. I believe you should not be using slow sessions in the morning, not be really before noon. You should be trying to wake that brain up and get it functioning, is my take. Anyway, so there's some stuff on frequencies and that. Okay, go ahead.
Next question. And we're going to be speaking to the manual mode. Can you also use the manual mode during the session of the client or only preset? And if we don't understand it, I'll get Liev to turn on.
Yeah, well, there was on that editor or on that live app, there was a live mode and there was a manual mode. The manual, when you click on manual, it allows you to make settings in the future. Then you set that little time bar, 10 seconds, 15, 20, 30, 40, whatever, and then you hit go, and then it'll transition over that time frame to your future settings that you put in there. And you can change your colors, you can change your frequencies, you can have tones turn on and off, and it'll do it as it's sliding across. And then you can put it back into live mode, and then you can run it live again.
Okay. Next question. Setting left and right is contralateral, so meaning left for right eye and ear and right for left ear and eye. Is that
Sure.
correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Made some pumping sessions that are designed to pump cerebral blood flow. I don't know if Becky or John want to comment on their experiences, but pumping cerebral blood flow, it's really quite a brilliant concept, and it might have some very good applications for Alzheimer's and Parkinson's.
I'll go ahead and comment for a second because I've been playing with this. Actually, it started because I have a patient with a pump, a passive pump that has been placed in as a shunt. And he wanted to use the AVE, and we didn't know how that was going to affect things with the pump. And Dave looked up some articles and sent them to me, and I thought, well, this sounds kind of good. Let's turn it on and then turn it off, and then turn it on and then turn it off. And that was kind of the start of some of this. And I was able to use it with him, and he has, of course, terrible headaches. He's on his third shunt, and of course, nobody wants to go in for another surgery. So he was looking for something to be rehabilitation. So he used it for a while, and unfortunately, he passed, of a heart attack. So it was not related, but part of the whole physiology picture. So I don't have more to report on how he responded, but his wife said that he loved it. So he used it for a little while. I don't know about other diagnoses yet. But in terms of using this, if you're looking at some of the research on what happens while we sleep, many of you already know we have a waste management system that kicks on intensely at certain hours of the night. And there will be a dumping off of cerebral spinal fluid and then pumping back in of blood. And this cycle that happens is part of the waste management system. And when you use these sessions that turn on and off in the way that they do, you look at the relationship of the ratio between the two of them, and you're able to figure out how to increase some sense that the brain has of creating that waste management system during rest. So it's a pretty useful tool. I've been playing with it. So hopefully
Yeah,
that was all intelligible.
no, it's all good. Yeah, it turns on for 15 seconds, then off for 15 seconds. And the way it works is that when it's on, cerebral blood flow goes up. So the brain has to pump out cerebral spinal fluid to maintain intracranial pressure. And then when it shuts off, there's no more cerebral blood flow. It falls off, and so the brain brings back in cerebral spinal fluid. And you can pump up to 20% a minute. And lack of cerebral blood flow is rampant with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and other concussive disorders and things. So we'll see how it goes. Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun to look at the data. We've got now some more pre and post ERP data to go with that. So that'll be fun.
Well, we're still making them, by the way, but yes, we have. Now the difference is that when we went to the Premier, I randomized the sessions entirely. Normally we randomize them just mostly in the first 5 to 10 minutes as a dissociative effect, but we have found that by randomizing entirely, it actually works better. But if you want the old sessions that are not randomized entirely, we have that entire library set up for the Premier if you want to bring those in, and you can have both sets of sessions. So
the strobe light phenomenon of the 1970s. So strobes after that have a certain set of frequencies removed. So we don't have anything like that.
Like the old strobes of I didn't understand quite that question.
So he's saying, are there any frequencies to steer clear of? So do we have any frequencies? And you were talking about this before.
Yeah. Well, we run every frequency from sub-delta to gamma. And no, generally, I would say there are not any frequencies to steer clear of, but generally, again, like I mentioned about frequencies earlier, you don't use typically betas or gammas at night, and you don't use delta thetas or alphas within a couple hours of waking up. You want to kind of be frequency appropriate for the time of day.
Dave, what I was referring to was in the 1970s, there were epileptic fits in discos because of the strobe lights. And so they designed strobe lights after that to remove a set of frequencies that had a tendency to cause people to have epileptic fits.
Oh, I see. Well, the best way to cause an epileptic seizure is a square wave or sharp pulse, like a xenon strobe light, in the 15 to 20 hertz range and color red. And also very high intensity. I mean, these seizure studies are using 50,000 lux. I mean, that's intense. Our stuff maxes out at about 1,000 lux. Also, foveal stimulation, so down the center, is the best way to trigger a seizure as well. If it's more peripheral, it's much more difficult. And if you randomize it, and it's almost impossible. And if you don't use a square wave, the research shows as soon as you quit using a square wave, you probably never see a seizure ever. Now, in the very old days when we had the old David 1, which had it was almost a square wave. It was pretty close. We did have a few seizures, but I have not seen one now with our newer stuff. 20 years. So I don't think it'll be an issue. Takahashi and Sukahara did a study where they were using red lights, square wave again, around 15 to 20. And they were starting to set up clinical seizures that they were seeing on the EEG, but not physically manifested just yet into the motor strip. And if they put a blue light on, they would actually stop the seizure from progressing. I myself have worked with enough people over the years who do have seizure issues, and we've resolved a lot of them with light and sound stimulation. I'm just careful when I do it. The first couple of times I put them on the EEG and watch it. But some people have, especially teenagers with trauma, the cortisol damages the temporal lobes and it damages the prefrontal cortex and stuff. And they have a tendency to have night seizures. And then they're awake 100 times a night. They're not quite seizures. They're just very large paroxysms. And they will twitch and stuff at night, and it wakes them up all night long, and then they're always exhausted. And we get them on entrainment, and we stop that cortisol by putting them into alpha protocols and getting them deeply relaxed and getting that stress out, and also lifestyle management, things like this. Typically, after 3 months, they never have a seizure again. They don't even need to use the gear. Just get that cortisol out of the system. And Michael could probably comment on that endlessly because he worked with so many children who were some dysfunctional homes who had a lot of these types of disorders. And he knows all about management of stress and lifestyle and what an effect that had on nighttime paroxysms and stuff. I mean, do you feel like commenting, Mike? Or?
Yeah, I had a number of seizure students. One lady came from Michigan. She spent 3 weeks and started out real slow. One thing that you'll notice, that I noticed, is that the relationship between respiration and seizure activity. I got her to recognize how she felt doing AVE, starting her slow and that type of thing, and elicited all those submodalities associated with the seizure or with doing AVE. And when she felt, she'd get an aura that the seizure was coming on. She'd have about 13 a day, 14 a day coming in, and she felt that aura of the seizure coming on, and she just put her body in that state that she felt while she was doing AVE. And when she did that, her respiration and the body sensations, she would breathe her way through the seizure. And after 3 weeks, she went home with basically nothing. I had another boy that was about the same time period, 9-year-old. He was quite interesting. His seizures were associated with temper tantrums. So if he didn't get what he wanted, he'd hold his breath, he'd have a seizure, and that was it. So after about a few days, I kind of noticed that this type of thing going on, and I related that to his dad. And on the way home, he was having one of his tantrums, and he started to seize, and his dad says, "Knock it off and stick your head out the window and take a deep breath." And so from that point on, it was pretty much, that was kind of a self-induced type of seizure. And and I've had a number of other ones too. A number of Tourette's, a lady in Arizona. She was almost constantly Touretting. Her life was miserable. And after about 6 weeks of using the device, the Touretting pretty much went down to nothing, and she quit using the device. And after about several weeks, the twitching came back, and she started to use it again. And as long as she used it about 3 times a week, she was fine. So a number of other seizure examples too, but it's manageable. And I did make some recommendations with regard to lifestyle, dietary things. Dietary things are huge with just about everybody that you see, invariably. It's quite interesting. I will mention, and I've got a lot of examples, but one person that I had, he was a 2-time mayor of Minneapolis. In between that, he was 20 years in Washington as a representative. He came to see me. He didn't tell me what his issues were. He says, "I understand you have something that'll help me." He never shared what was going on. So he took the device, and after 3 weeks, he came back. He said his daughter came home and took it with her. So he needed another one. And so he started using that, and then he came back shortly after that and got another one to send to his sister. But after about a month or so, 2 months, he came in. He hadn't paid for any of these devices yet. And so he came in. He says, "This is un-American." And I kind of see where you're going with this. He says, "Yeah." He says, "We would probably have the pharmaceutical people would be going out of business, and we'd turn hospitals into housing for the homeless." And I saw him 4 months later, and he was off all his meds, and he had lost some weight, and he lived into his 90s. Very active person. So it's been a wonderful experience for me and for the people that I have had to work with.
Nice. Thanks, Michael. I appreciate that. Michael's got lots of stories. Okay. Anything else?
Next question. So the old David has extend and focus. Does the Premier have that function, like the expand, focus, sound? I think that says sound.
Yeah, we don't call it expand and focus anymore. We call it synchronize and alternate. But we've always kept that.
Okay, so that's still on the Premier. Okay. And then music mode to run LED glasses together with music? So
You
there's
can still, yes, you can still plug music into the device. It's better if you get your audio file and you put it on the SD card and then you pair it with your session. And you can even tell it to adjust the session to match the length of the audio file. So if you had a 30-minute session and your audio file was 26 minutes, you could tell the device to match it, and it'll automatically make it a 26-minute session. It'll just shave off a little bit from all the modules and make it match. Or you can just say, don't make it match, and then when the music ends, it ends, and then the session will stop when it stops. So it's very flexible, especially if you say, I would recommend putting the audio on the SD card. I should mention, it only takes WAV files. It does
yeah, I was
not take
just going to
MP3
say,
files.
can you talk about WAV files? Okay.
Yeah, it must be WAV files. Those are the best quality files, and the device, yeah, we don't want to be, I mean, MP3 files can be good quality or poor quality, and we can only pick one. We decided to settle on WAV files.
Next question. Can you speak to any differences between the view hole and the OmniScreen Spectrum eye sets, other than being able to see through the view hole?
Yeah, the view hole is used typically more for cognitive things. Like athletes will use it. They'll put on the view hole, they'll put on an SMR protocol, put the unit in a fanny pack, and they can, we did this to the Dallas Cowboys many, many years ago, and they would run faster and go farther with entrainment on. But of course, you had to have the view hole eye sets so you can see where you're going. But you can use them for phobias. You can use them for desensitization training, all types. Guys with simulators, like racing car simulators, airplane simulators, they can use the machine at the same time you're on the simulator. And so you can stay in the zone when situations get tight and without getting over aroused and crashing your plane or crashing your car. Jay Pacenti was using it with all of his students who were doing Indy 500 race car driving. And they would, after training with our gear on the simulators, they would crash less cars than those who didn't use our gear on the simulators.
Is there any difference in efficacy between the Spectrum view hole or the Spectrum OmniScreen?
No, I would say not, except for the one thing. Entrainment works on the contrast ratio between light and dark. And so if you have the view hole eye set in a brighter room, you're not going to get that contrast. And you need that contrast. So unless you put a little cloth over the eye sets or dim the room, then you're going to have some issues there. So I myself typically use the full screen because I'm not trying to do cognitive stuff, and it blocks out the background light quite well. I'm Dave Seaver, Mind Alive, and thank you very, very much for attending this webinar on how to use the David Live app and record sessions in real time, download them into the studio, tweak them if you wish, and then install them into the Premier device. And thanks so much for listening. And I know that you guys who get onto this, you're gonna be really upping your game in terms of helping people with mental health issues for sure.